Hello tankers and tankettes, welcome to World of Tanks Generals, and this is a much delayed look at World of Tanks Generals, and it's not even my first attempt at recording a look at World of Tanks Generals because a couple of weeks back, and it probably is a couple of weeks ago now, sort of 2.5, 3 maybe, I did sit down and record a whole video and it was fine. And then for some reason the video was all kind of screwed up, and I suspect it's because I was recording from a browser, but I've done a couple of test recordings and I think it should all be working. So this is all just in Firefox right now. World of Tanks Generals is, as you should know by this point, it's an online card game, and it's not unlike Hearthstone. A bunch of you might have played Hearthstone. I've played a little bit of Hearthstone, and like Hearthstone, it's quite easy to get into, but I imagine they're pitching it a bit like World of Tanks, easy to get into but hard to master. And like Hearthstone, there's that element of RNG that kind of it keeps every battle from going the same way, because you never quite know what cards you're going to get out of your deck. So this is obviously the front of the website, and we're just going to immediately hit play. And I've done all the tutorials and that, and there's actually been a big update since I last played it, so I might not be quite familiar with everything, but basically you start off with, there's 3 different nations, and the main difference between them is the headquarters card, the headquarters unit for each one has kind of different abilities. So the USSR HQ unit gets more hit points, but the US HQ unit gets higher resource production, and we'll get to what these things mean in a bit. But the Germans, I'm not quite sure, but there's kind of that's the core differences. You can have cards of any nation in any deck, as it were, but if you want to kind of fine-tune your play style to play the game in different ways, then you do that through the headquarters deck. But I'm sticking with the Soviet deck, the USSR HQ deck for now. So I've just got, this is the side of Hearthstone that I've never even really bothered looking into, is this whole deck building thing. And I've poked around a little bit with it in generals, but if you like that kind of thing, it's all there. You can tweak and kind of change the value of your deck, and there's a maximum amount of cards you can have in your deck, and you can change the composition of the cards in your deck, and all that has an effect on how you play the game, obviously. But I've done very little poking around with that. I've only actually unlocked a couple of different cards so far. And if we take a look at the research tree, and you'll see exactly how you do unlock new cards. Now, much like World of Tanks, where you've got XP and research and all that kind of thing, they've carried over that idea into Generals as well. So what you do is you get XP in battles, and then you use that XP to unlock different cards, and then you can buy different examples of those cards with your credits, basically. There's also going to be premium cards and premium currency. It doesn't look like it's going to be tied into your unified Wargaming account, so I don't think your premium currency, the gold that you've got in World of Tanks and World Warplanes, and hopefully World of Warships as well, I'm hoping that will be unified. It'd be kind of silly if it wasn't. It doesn't look like it will be for Generals, and I can kind of see why, because the pricing and everything is pitched very differently in this. The whole in-game economy is quite different, but it really is aimed at the current World of Tanks player base, because it's all based on stuff that's in World of Tanks. In fact, they've actually got vehicles that you can play that you can deploy that aren't actually in World of Tanks. So I'm just going to go into a random battle. I'm going to play against an opponent, and I think it matches you based on your deck power. And as you can see, it's put me in this 40 to 48 bracket because my deck power is 42. So you could probably game your brackets a little bit in terms of making sure that you're always near the top of your bracket. And I don't know how many people are actually playing at the moment, so we'll maybe have a little wait here. It's having a good search, but this is all closed beta, so it's not going to be that many people playing right now. Actually, we'll see what game sounds we get by turning that on. I think there's in-game music as well, but it's basically, this is all Java. It's all in a browser. You don't need anything special. As long as you've got the Java client on your computer, it should run. It's entirely platform agnostic. Although, actually, I don't know what the status of Java on Linux machines are, so you might have difficulty playing it on Linux, but I don't know. I'm sure they'll aim that, you know, they'll want as many people to be able to play this as possible, basically. Okay, there is music. We'll turn that off. That might be a bit annoying. So, this is new. I can use one of my, like, you can purchase things to use at the beginning. So we'll do, I don't know. We'll do that one, which gives me a bonus resource. And there is a timer for each of your moves, basically. So you start off with your headquarters unit on the board, and as you can see, he gets one more fuel because he's using the US headquarters unit. I'm going to have to think fast here as well, because there is a time limit on each of these turns. So you've got hit points and attack power, basically. It's very, very simple to understand. So we'll immediately use this. Oh, extra. There we go. Click on the board. I can remember how to do this. I've got a bonus resource, a starting resource, basically. So I can deploy a bunch of these tanks, and I can actually start off by deploying a very beefy tank, because I've been given a pair of T-35 wands. So we'll actually put one of those down, and that's used up all of my resources. Now, all of your actions in terms of placing things down require resources, but attacks don't. Attacks are based on the number of moves you've got. So I can immediately make an artillery attack against the opponent, and then click end turn because I'm done. There's also, you know, a lot of this is very familiar for playing World Tanks. It's the different classes, but some of your classes are also they give you resources by putting down certain tanks on the board. We can see there light tanks and heavy tanks. They actually give me +1 resources. So not only are these your fighting units, but they're also giving you resources. So it's quite important to try and keep as many alive as possible, because if you can get a resource advantage on your opponent, that can be quite powerful. There are also, I mean, you've got your unit cards, so each of these have kind of different characteristics, different things they can do. You know, light tanks, you put them down and they can attack on the same turn. They can move and attack on the same turn. Artillery, you don't have, they're pretty weak, but they can fire across the board. So you get a couple of artillery pieces down, and if you manage to protect them, that can be a game changer. Heavy tanks are most powerful in terms of the amount of hit points they get, and they can have decent attack values as well, but they are relatively, like if you use them to attack in your turn, they then don't get to counter attack if an enemy attacks them. And there are also tank destroyers which always get to attack first, so that could be a very powerful advantage. So he's put down 2 artillery and this A7V, which is, you know, that's a World War I German tank, so it's not very strong on the attack, but it's got a decent amount of defense. Now, I probably want to I can put down artillery on the board myself. Now, this heavy tank can only move in, it's like in chess, it can only move like a rook, whereas light tanks can move in any direction. I think medium tanks can as well, but we'll move him up, and then we can actually attack that enemy artillery, and he can't fire back, so that's fine. And I can no, I can't move that on the same turn I deploy it, but I can fire it on the same turn I deploy it, so that's fine. Also notice I can only shoot at those 2, I can't shoot at that, so there's a kind of a spotting mechanic going on almost as well, in that you can only shoot at stuff that you can always shoot at the enemy headquarters, but you can only shoot at the enemy tanks that are kind of adjacent to tanks that you've put down. So I still have some fuel. I've got 4, so I could put down an MS1, which would get me more fuel, and it would allow me to restore some hit points to my own. So I'll actually do that. Put down a light tank, and I can actually move that light tank up there. I can put down this, which restores some of my own hit points, and draws another card, which is quite useful. And then I can make an attack on either the enemy base or this A7V here. So I'll actually attack that A7V, and there we go. So we'll end turn. I can't do anything else, and we're just waiting for the opponent to make its move now. So it's totally random as to the cards that you get drawn out of your deck, but obviously you can try and influence things by having multiples of the same card in the same deck. That will make it much more likely that you'll get those out. Now he's put down another heavy tank, and that means this tank here is going to take a real battering. So if it gets knocked out, that'll be bad for me. So I want to ideally withdraw this thing here and maybe concentrate on knocking out that A7V if I can. But I also want to move my artillery up north. Now, moving your cards around doesn't actually cost anything in terms of like resources or anything. So I'll actually concentrate all our firepower on that. There's always, and it's like Hearthstone, there's that kind of, do you concentrate on attacking enemy cards that are on the field, or do you go for the actual enemy, you know, the kind of the base card, as it were? So it's that kind of balance between what you're attacking and what you're sort of leaving on the field. So we'll actually move that card there north. We want to ideally move that there. We can move this light tank. Now, it's got a very poor attack value, but if I move it up here, it'll get knocked out for sure. But I really want to take out this A7V. And this heavy tank really doesn't have the... Like, I could knock this guy out because I've got enough attack value, but his counterattack will knock my card out at the same time, so that's not good. So I'll put down another heavy tank, which is most of my remaining fuel. And there is a fixed, like, every... I mean, it's a certain amount of time per turn, but if you run out of time, you lose by default, so you have to be quite careful not to take too long. So I'll actually... I mean, we'll move this card down here. And... I don't know. I won't put that card there. It's a bit sacrificial because it's keeping that artillery alive. But he can survive... oh no, he can't counterattack, so I can just take him out entirely. So okay, he might try and move up and attack. Well, he can't actually. He can only attack that, so that's fine. I'm trying to remember because it's been like 2 weeks at least since I played this, so I might be getting some of the finer details wrong. And like I said, there has been an update since I actually played this. We're now at version 0.32, so I am. You know, I'm kind of vaguely. Oh, there we go. He can attack that. Oh well. I lost an artillery, but I took out one of their arties as well, so that's fine. I'm sort of vaguely going on what I remembered doing the last time. So I've lost my T-35-1, but I've got another one on the board, and I just have that MS-1 still alive, so I want to try and get it between the that heavy and my artillery, because I don't want to lose my artillery just yet. So if I move that north, I can get a T-21 on the board, which is useful. T-24s are annoying because they don't have a very good attack, but they've got oodles of health. It's a pity the TOG isn't in the game yet. The TOG would probably have like 12 health or something, but terrible attack. So I can also put down an MS-1, which is fine. That's even more fuel. And it really is, like, getting an advantage in resources can be really decisive in this game. That can have a massive effect on how well you do. So he's attacked, so he doesn't get to counter-attack. So I'm going to concentrate all firepower on this guy for now. And I could move that, but I'm not going to, because that would be slightly suicidal. So he might just... He knows he's probably going to lose that card anyway, so he might just go after my Su-18 regardless. And that looks like exactly what he's doing. Yeah, okay, never mind. So that has cost me artillery support, but at the moment I've got a nice card advantage on the board. And I can comfortably take out that guy and start concentrating on that guy, and maybe even starting to advance up the board a bit. But you have to be a bit careful. It's a delicate balancing act, this game. You have to try and conserve your own resources, but at the same time, if you're too cautious, if you're just sitting in the corner doing nothing, you're not going to win. So you've got to do a bit of a juggling act, and at the back of that there's always that RNG in that you might get stuck with terrible cards, or you might end up with a card that's really good but you just can't use it because you don't have enough fuel or whatever. So at the moment I'm on the back foot, but I've got all my landing zones, like these 3 immediate squares here. You've got to really try and keep those clear if possible, because that's where your cards go down. So if those get blocked, that's really bad. So I'll actually soften that guy up. Take him out with... It's a bit of a waste of attack value, that's the only thing. But what I can do is move that medium tank diagonally and attack there. And that's his most dangerous unit in terms of attacking taken out. So that's fine. Take out that T-24 maybe. Oh, a Liberty. That's very useful. It gets a good attack. This is a World War I era tank, and it's actually one of the more powerful tanks you can get in the kind of earlier stages. And I can actually attack right off the bat, so that's quite useful. So that T-24 is just about done for, but he's got another heavy tank. And I get 10 resources, so I can put down a fair few cards the next turn. In theory. We'll see. It's all on the RNG. And he's got a lot more cards he could potentially call on, which maybe means he's got some high value cards that he didn't have the resources to put down. I don't know. I'm not very good at this game, I'm going to be honest. I've not really played it that much, and my win rate is not particularly great. So it might be I put down the wrong cards at the wrong time, or I'm putting them down in the wrong places. I don't really have that kind of feel for the strategy yet, to be honest. Although I've had a couple of decent wins, but for the most part, I just seem to lose. So, yeah, we'll see. He's taking his time thinking about this turn. Okay, so he's used up his attack on my T-35-1. He's trying to whittle down some of those hit points. He's moving up his T-35-1. So that's where he's chosen to concentrate even his attack. So we want to try and keep that alive if possible, because that's, +1 resources is quite useful. He's placing down a T6 medium tank, which again has a decent amount of health. Some of the medium tanks really do have oh, I didn't mean to click on that. They really do have a pretty high amount of health, but they tend to not have nearly as good attack as the heavy tanks. So I only got one card, which is not particularly a brilliant card. I don't especially want to use that, but anyway, so we'll knock out that T-24 with artillery. That lets me advance this Liberty, and we can exact a heavy toll on that medium tank. We actually want to try, and we'll actually attack. Was that a misstep? That might have been a misstep, actually. Maybe I should have withdrawn that and moved up my T-21, which could better take the hit. But anyway, so I can actually still move that. Of course, you can attack and then move. Of course you can. I'm just a noob. That's what the problem is there. Right, he can't knock out immediately either of those units, but his T6 might be able to move up and, say, take out that one. So we might actually try a bit of tactical maneuvering here, and I might lose my, like, either way I might lose fuel here. We'll leave it, because actually we might not lose either card. I don't want to definitely lose a card, so we'll put down a BT2. I can put down the Be Vigilant card, and that gets me an extra draw. And I've actually got a lot of fuel at the moment, but can't deploy that T-21. So I've got a nice block of cards here, but it's just getting them into position to actually use them. So yeah, I've got to be careful of the timer as well. I'm taking way too long on these turns, I suspect. Don't want to lose just because I'll run out of time. Let's see what he does. So even if I lose a card or two at this point, this is a kind of a good advantage in resources I've got here. I feel like I can start moving up. But the thing with this game is that it can all, like, you can be confident, you can be sitting there thinking, yeah, I've got a good hand here, I've got a good number of tanks on the board, and then the enemy can deploy a single card or a couple of cards, and it can be like, oh, okay, that's suddenly reversed. So he's now going after my Liberty, and he's using some of his ability cards, which are doing damage to my Liberty, and bam, that's my Liberty out, and that's bad, because that's -2 fuel, so ooh, that's not good. And now he's going to go after my T-35-1, and he's going to take that out, so that's -3 fuel. So that's what I mean. You can be feeling confident, and then suddenly, okay then. But we can take out that T-35-1, and we can probably take out, oh, for goodness sake. And we can definitely take out the T6. Now he's removing that unit from the fray, or he's trying to. What I can do is I can move my T-21 up there and attack, which is fine. I He's got 3 health, so it really needs to be the T21 that's attacking this T6. And he's really down on fuel now. I can move up my BT2. And I've got a choice between an A7V and an MS1. I'll actually put both of them down because I might as well. I've got the fuel, and the more cards I have on the board, the better. And then I can actually go, bam, and attack his headquarters and end turn. So that was all right. I mean, I did lose a few cards there, but I was able to place down some more cards. But this seems to happen to me a lot, and I suspect it's me. But I tend to run out of cards, and then, yeah, maybe I've got the resources, but I maybe only have 1 or 2 cards to actually put down. So that can be annoying, running out of cards. And it doesn't matter how well you're doing in terms of resources. If you've only got 1 card to put down and it's rubbish, then it can hamstring you a bit. But like I said, that's probably me rather than the game. So he's put down a T24, lots of health, doesn't do much damage. And it looks like my T21's going to survive the round, but I probably want to try and withdraw it if possible. Because it's quite powerful, but the combined assault of, you know, if he decides to again concentrate on just that 1 tank, that's not going to last very long. So I'll actually move up the BT2, which I'm trying to actually get him to hit that, because I click on the card. I don't know if I can click on the card actually, but that gets me. It doesn't get me any fuel right now, but if it gets to 3 hit points or less, it suddenly goes up to like 2 or 3 fuel. So it's quite a nice card to have down on the deck. So we'll actually withdraw that T21. This one's got slightly more health. We can take out that T24, or at least damage that T24 quite grievously. Move up that that MS1 rather, and plonk down the T6, and then end the turn. Oh, I didn't fire my artillery, my base HQ artillery. That was a bit of a tactical misstep. I was so concentrated on, you know, yeah. Anyway, I threw away a point of damage there, which was a bit silly of me. I do that all the time when I'm playing Hearthstone as well. Not that I play it very much, but I miss out doing things, and I get so pleased with myself, or just so distracted. It doesn't help that I'm having to talk and play at the same time. You know, as any time I'm recording anything live, I have to divide my concentration, which is never a good thing for me. Oh, there we go. The first tank destroyer we've seen on the board so far. Tank destroyers are very weak in hit points. They generally have a good attack, but see, there we go. That was a mutually annihilation, mutually assured destruction, or mutual annihilation. But no, I decided to mash the 2 phrases together. Tank destroyers can always hit, even in the counter attack. They can always hit, but they don't have many hit points. So even if you can hit first, it isn't necessarily going to save you. Anyway, with the T6 and the A7 moving up, I can, you know, I've got a pretty good, there we go, there's his artillery gone. We're going to move up, and we're going to take the hit with the relatively high amount of hit points. Might actually be winning this one, you know. MS1 versus a, what is that? I'll actually move up the MS1 because that can take the hit, although we might lose that to base defenses, and we'll actually put it on the T1, and we'll move that one down there. And I don't have another card to deploy, so end turn. I might actually win this one. Maybe. This will be a rare victory for me. We'll see. Again, you can never discount the RNG. He might just have gotten a really excellent card that totally screws me. I just don't know. And that's part of the appeal of games like this, games like Hearthstone, is although you might build what you consider to be the perfect deck, you never quite know what the other guy's going to play. You never quite know what the other guy's going to have in his deck. You never quite know what RNG is going to give you out of your own deck. So it's that kind of, it's like why we play World of Tanks. It's never the same thing twice. And I mean, I haven't really talked about the actual, like, how much I've been enjoying this game or whatever yet so far, but I feel like if you played World of Tanks, and even if you haven't necessarily played Hearthstone, I think they've made this quite easy to grasp the basic concepts of it, and they really are going after that World of Tanks audience with this particular game. And I think they've largely succeeded in making something that is actually quite fun to play, and it's not necessarily something I would sit down and play as much as I would play World of Tanks, but It's still. I think he's running out of good cards to put down. By the way, I think he's getting a bit worried now. It's still. It's still entertaining enough to play, and it's kind of like it's the same but different. And there's enough interesting ideas in there that I think Generals is potentially worth checking out if you have really, well, even if you don't have interest in these kind of card-based games, you might be surprised. Now, I don't know what the beta application process is like at the moment. I haven't been given any beta keys or anything like that to give away. I think it's still closed beta, but I'm not sure. Also, I don't know. I think he was just, I don't know if he was distracted or if he just didn't have any cards he could put down. But whatever the reason, I think I've got this guy on the hop. No, I can only move that way. That's okay. We'll keep that T21 at the back. Panzerjäger, we'll move up there. Put that there. And I could move up that MS1, but actually just... actually, no, I should. I want to block out that zone. But the thing is, he might put down a card, in which case I lose the MS1, but if he put down a card and attacked my MS1, I'd lose it anyway. So anyway, it's worth the risk. The resources don't matter so much at this point. He can only put down one card here, and I could lose either the MS1 or the T6. And of course, he can hit with his base artillery, but I think we have him more or less on the ropes. Although I don't want to get too cocky, because the only tank with any amount of health left on the board is this A7V, and that isn't in a position to... We might end up having to fight a card in this zone here. So I can't immediately occupy that one last zone. But I can start attacking his base in earnest now. One thing we haven't actually seen from either side is the... I mean, I've mentioned ability cards, which let you can put them down and they'll attack a certain tank on the... Or you can attack... the enemy HQ or whatever, but there are also ones that are connected to your base, so you put them down and you get extra attack power for your base, or you'll get extra defensive points for your base, or there's various things, you know, or extra resources or whatever, but we actually haven't had any of those pop up so far. So I'm going to move this guy up. He can actually knock out that T21 without taking any damage in return, so that's the power of a tank destroyer. Move the A7V up there, and we can just start pummeling away now. I'm actually going to leave the MS1 where it is, because it... although actually, no, that might have been a mistake. I might wanted to have... oh, there we go, I can do it anyway. I was going to say I might wanted to have moved that out, but I keep forgetting you can fire and then move. That is allowed. And the T6, that's okay, that's everything moved that can move. Might as well put down this T1. Why not? End turn. Yeah, I think I've got him on the ropes now. This is maybe another 2 turns. In fact, probably not even that with the amount of... yeah, no, I can definitely take him down the next turn. Unless something disastrous happens. He might have a card he can put down that does 2 damage, for instance, and takes out my T6, and then he deploys a tank. At which point the fight gets a little bit longer. But I think we've definitely got him at this point. So let's just see what he does. This is who is this guy? QB Quebezek 666. So you have been a worthy opponent, sir. But I'm glad to say I have defeated you, because I don't have many wins in this game so far. Yeah, no, he's just kicking his heels at this point. He doesn't know what to do, or else he's just deliberately wasting time. He's making me wait. I don't know. Now the matches in this, I mean, I've been recording for, let's see, nearly half an hour now. I mean, it's 15 minutes a piece. So you might look at it and think, oh, the matches can only last up to 15 minutes. Well, no, it could potentially last up to half an hour for a single match. So the matches aren't that quick, and I don't know how that compares to Hearthstone. Because, confession time, I've never actually played against another player in Hearthstone. I've only ever played against the AI. I am very bad at Hearthstone. Oh, there we go. He's put down a base ability card. So what that does is that gives that particular one, that gives his base extra hit points. So as you can see, 7 extra hit points. So if I try and attack his base... oh, no. Has he conceded defeat? I guess? Is that a thing you can do now? Concede defeat? Anyway, we've won. And I've even got some, that's new, some medals. So have a quick look at the summary. And we can see there, damage dealt, it's quite a big gap between those two. Resources spent was actually quite close. Sometimes you'll see, you'll look at the end result and it'll be the resources spent screen that is like, there's a big gap between the two. And if one side gets a decisive advantage and they're just able to consistently outspend you in resources, then that ends up being sometimes a runaway advantage. But in this case, I mean, you look at this, it's relatively close, and then you look at damage dealt. So towards the latter half of that battle, I was just able to, you know, through a combination of, obviously, you know, my impressive skill at playing this game, but getting the just lots of tanks, which were able to give me lots of resources, and also I was able to do damage with those tanks. So yeah, so there we go. World of Tanks Generals, I think this is possibly worth checking out. Maybe. You might look at it and think, well, this is boring, and it might be entirely boring to you, but again, I mean, in line with other World of Tanks Wargaming products, it's going to be free to play, it's going to have microtransactions, so just to try out, it's not going to cost you anything at all. So yeah, I think we're actually not that far off launch as well, because they're starting to advertise things like pre-order bundles. If I click on this link, so the fact that they're doing this means it probably isn't that far off. I might even potentially, some of these low price ones are actually pretty low price, so potentially I might spend a little bit of money on one of these myself. Who knows? So if you have any comments or questions, you can put them below. You can hit the like button, you can subscribe to my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.